Next up, at UFC Vegas 107, we have Dustin Jacoby taking on Bruno Lopes. Dustin Jacoby, 20-9 in his career, 2-3 in his last 5. He's coming off that bounce back win over Vitor Petrino, taking on Bruno Lopes. 14-1 in his career, 4-1 in his last 5. He is on a 3-fight win streak. Dustin Jacoby's a guy that we've broken down many, many times. He's also a guy that's going somewhat viral right now. I guess it was in an interview last week. People asked him about his fights with Alex Pereira in kickboxing, and he said, his power is ungodly. I've never felt anything like that before. Now, that doesn't pertain to this fight, but it is a pretty cool peek into the world of what it's like getting hit by Alex Pereira. Dustin Jacoby is a former kickboxer. Dustin Jacoby was a kickboxer, came to the UFC for a year or two, left, went back to kickboxing for a very long period of time where he walked all the way up to rank number 2 in the world. And then he came back to the UFC. When he first came back to the UFC, he was on a beautiful little win streak. And now it's been a rockier road as of late. He's getting a little older, but he is still a high-level technical striker. He'll light your legs up. He'll come forward. He'll pump that jab, and he's pretty technically sound. He did just knock out Vitor Petrino. That was more of a perfectly landed shot than it was a masterclass in striking. He's taking on Bruno Lopes. Bruno Lopes is a forward pressure striker. He has no problem with volume. He'll start technical. He'll throw in combinations, but he will get sucked into a slug fight where he just starts winging from the hip. He's a solid grappler as well with decent takedowns, heavy top pressure, good ground and pound. He's coming off that decision win over Magomed Gadzhiesulov where he had 5 takedowns. I am going to pick Dustin here. He's going to be the way better striker, and he has very good takedown defense. That's the pick. But I'm going to do what Angelo does, which is tell you why you probably shouldn't bet on this fight and all the ways it can go wrong. The reality is Dustin does not like forward pressure. He doesn't fight nearly as well backing up as he does moving forward. Bruno Lopes has great forward pressure, and if he just stays in Dustin's face, this could get weird. Dustin did just knock out Vitor Petrino, but that was Vitor running in chaotically, and he ran right into a straight. I am going to pick Dustin. There's probably some recency bias on this line. I am surprised it's 2-1, essentially. But Dustin's going to be the pick. I think he's a good enough striker to win the striking exchanges and definitely a good enough grappler to keep it on the feet. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I had actually a funny interaction with Dustin Jacoby. I was at the Cody Brundage fight when he fought Julian Marquez, and then afterwards I was kind of waiting around for Cody, and David Onama was there, and Dustin was there and stuff. And after the fight, Dustin came like jogging over me. First of all, he's fucking huge. I think you talked about that.
I saw him in the airport, and I was like, God damn, he's big.
He's listed at 6'3".
He's
like,
bigger
than
than
that. Seems
that.
like he's like 6'6". I mean, he like walked up to me, and he was like a half jog up to me, and I'm like, what's this guy about to fuck? I knew it was Dustin. I'm like, and I immediately started going through the Rolodex of like, what was I saying about him in past fights? Like, what's he about to say to me right now? And he came up to me and he goes, hey man, can I get one of those highlight tapes? Because he was talking about the lock of the week, because I did one for Cody, and everyone loved the Cody one, right, or whatever, and then obviously Youssef and stuff like that. So super nice guy, and I told him, I was like, you just gotta. You got to be an underdog.
Be an underdog, right? Yeah.
Whatever. And honestly, when I was breaking down this fight, I was like, perfect. I can finally make Dustin his highlight tape. He can be my lock of the week. I like him in this fight. I'm going to pick Dustin in this fight. And I just assumed that against a 14-1 big Brazilian that he was going to be the underdog. I don't think he was deserving of it. And that's why he was going to be my lock of the week. But I just assumed that the odds makers, typically you see a 14-1 big Brazilian like this, kind of a younger-ish prospect with an aging guy, you would assume that Dustin was going to be the underdog, but he's not. And I'm not surprised, because Bruno isn't like your prototypical 14-1 guy. He's been knocked out in his one loss, and he fights a little bit sloppy. He wants to just kind of march forward, grab a hold of you, muscle you, get you to the ground, and he's not really great at doing any of those things. He's an okay striker. He's okay in the clinch. He's got okay takedowns, okay grappling, and what could hurt Dustin in this fight is the smaller cage in the apex. I mentioned that in an earlier fight. A guy that wants to be in that range of kickboxing, he probably would prefer the bigger cage, the smaller cage at the apex, but I think Dustin is going to be able, he knows what Bruno wants to do, and that is get in his face, grab him, hold him against the fence. Dustin's actually got in trouble before with kind of like the more powerful guys that kind of lunge athletically into the clinch with the striking, where Bruno would just kind of a little bit more methodical, press you against you, then grab you, and then hold you. I think they're going to be well aware that Bruno is just going to want to hug to win, and Dustin has been in fights like that before, to where he can just kind of circle off the cage, get his underhooks, get back to space, and that space, Dustin should be the better fighter. So, unfortunately, he can't be my lock of the week. I was actually kind of looking forward to it to get that highlight tape for him. So sorry about that, Dustin. But he's like one of the nicest people. And I've talked to Cody about they call him DJ Dustin, and said that he's literally like the nicest dude in like the fucking world. Like the way he came up to me, he was like a little kid. He was like, "Hey, can I get one of those highlight tapes?" And I was like, "Hey, if you're an underdog," and unfortunately we might have to wait for that. But I like Dustin in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, you should win this fight. I was surprised by the odds too. Jacob and I talk about it all the time. We break down the fights, then we look at the odds, right? We look at the matchup, take our notes. If we have to watch tape, we'll watch the tape. We'll do all the things. Then we'll look at the odds, see where there's value, where there's not value, things like that. I do fight by fight. I don't know, maybe he does the whole card, but I'll do the entire fight. I'll take all my notes. Then I will look at the odds, and then I'll be like, do I place a bet? Do I not place a bet? And I was surprised as well that Dustin was at least as big of a favorite as he is. He was an even bigger favorite the other day. Because I expected the same thing. Like, he's 37, and yeah, he beat Vitor Petrino, but you know that broke up a bit of a losing skid there, and Vitor ran into that punch, and Bruno's young. But I think it just says a lot about, as the year goes on, I think these odds get better and better. Early in the year, in the beginning of 2025, all we talked about were how many massive underdogs were winning. And that is very quickly changing as we're getting to the halfway point of the year. And I think the public gets smarter and smarter. I think the books get smarter and smarter. And the odds tend to be more and more correct as the year goes on. I don't have any data to back this up other than it felt like this last year and it feels like it again this year. And I think this is one of those fights. And the main event's another one where I get how it should be close. But the reality is most people are on one side, and the odds are going to reflect that. Justin Jacoby's both of our pick here. $8,800 in DraftKings Fantasy, though. I'm probably not going to spend that money because while Dustin did just knock out Vitor Petrino, I think he's just going to be working his way off the cage and being the better striker this whole time. He probably wins a decision, maybe even 29-28, if they give credit for Bruno's cage control there. But if you do want to check out not only all the picks and the bets, but also the tools. We have a tool called the Fight Simulator that simulates fights 100,000 times, and it gives you those outputs. We just used the Fight Simulator while building last week's Underdog Fantasy and Prize Picks entries, and the lines that the simulator gave us were absolutely spot on, perfect. Check it all out. Everything we do is included in one package, $10, WeWantPicks.com.